Good afternoon. I hold in my hands a copy of the video game NCAA Football 2011. And the cover star of this year's game was Tim Tebow, quarterback for the University of Florida. According to Roger Groves in his article, EA Sports will still score even more financial touchdowns without the NCAA. This franchise has made $1.3 billion. Any guesses how much of that money Tim Tebow has seen? Zero. Nothing. Which brings us to what I'm about to discuss. College athletics are heading for a change, and in order to protect the integrity and what it stands for to be a college athlete and the concept of student athlete, changes need to be made sooner rather than later. College athletes put in over 60 hours a week towards generating revenue for their sports, and they take a full load of classes on top of that. They have no other way to generate income legally outside of a job, as long as that job doesn't pay them based on using their likeness or image, or asking the family for money. Keep in mind also that college athletics generate $12 billion a year for the NCAA. According to the article by Tom Garancer, how much money does the NCAA make? Now, I've done a lot of research on this subject, and I've personally known college athletes, so I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on the situation. Articles from Forbes, ESPN, the Sporting News, Time, the New York Times. I feel lend a bit of credibility to what I'm about to discuss. Now, I'm going to discuss three main points. The first one is money. How much money is made, how much the NCAA gets, where it goes, and some comparisons. Then I'm going to discuss the athlete's opinion, specifically Jake Butt, a tight end from the University of Michigan, who does an excellent interview with Michael Rothstein of ESPN about his opinions on the matter. And finally, we're going to get to what can we do to fix this? What can we do to compensate the athletes? I'm going to give you three main ways to do it, plus the status quo, and I'm going to focus more on the Olympic model, which I believe is the correct model. Now, the NCAA generates $12 billion a year through its athletics, and $1 billion of that goes directly to the NCAA, according to Tom Garancer's article. Now, also bear in mind that the NCAA tournament generates a contract is worth $11 billion that they just signed with CBS and Turner Sports. This, according to the article by Tiffany Patterson, should college athletes be paid. Now, consider this. The NCAA generates $12 billion. The NBA generates $5 billion. You heard me correctly. An amateur athletic group generates more than two times the revenue of a professional basketball league that pays its players into 30s and 40s of millions of dollars a year. So where does the money go? Well, the money goes to coaches, stadiums, athletic staff, equipment, and just general program needs. But let's talk about the coaching salaries. Now, according to the article by Shana McCarriston and Top 25 College Football Salaries of 2018, the top two coaches get paid: Nick Saban, University of Alabama, $8.3 million, and Urban Meyer of the Ohio State University at $7.6 million. Don't forget basketball. John Calipari for the University of Kentucky gets $8 million, and Coach Mike Krzyzewski of Duke University earns $9 million. Now, this is according to Nick Schwartz in his article, The 5 Highest Paid Coaches in College Basketball. Keep in mind that the compensation for scholarships that the athletes themselves receive vary depending on in-state and out-of-state tuition, $50,000 to $130,000. Tiny percents of what the coaches are making. So clearly the money is there, it's just going towards certain people. Now that we know where the money is and where it goes, let's hear a bit from a student athlete and what his opinion would be on the current system and what needs to change. The athlete is Jake Butt, who in his interview with ESPN's Michael Rothstein discusses seeing things such as T-shirts with the saying, "I like Jake Butt and I cannot lie." Clever, Real clever, he thought, until he realized he doesn't get any of that money because he's legally not allowed to, because it goes against NCAA rules and he would lose his eligibility. So he is very much on board with the Olympic method, paraphrasing for him because he doesn't say it, but he wants athletes in college to be compensated for their likeness and for their image and to be able to make money on the side doing things like that based on their skills on the field. He discusses how at Michigan he received a stipend. It was $900 a month. Unfortunately for him, $700 went to his apartment, so he had $200 left to pay the rest of his bills. He would end up calling his father to borrow money. And his father would be confused, of course, because he said, "You have a scholarship, you have a free ride, I don't understand." And he would have to explain that it doesn't cover everything. And that's what people don't understand. There's a lot of things that it doesn't cover. Now, Mr. Butt doesn't have the answers, but he wants to open the discussion and he wants to get this going. He's in the NFL now, but he still cares. He wants, athletes, these college kids, to be compensated. As you can see, there are many issues with the current system. How do we fix them and maintain the integrity of what makes college sports so special, while also compensating the athletes who have sacrificed so much for our enjoyment? I believe there's 3 ways. A pay-for-play model. This would be where the athletes are no longer student athletes, they're just employees, and you would hire them just like you would any other employee, and you would fire them like any other employee. Now, the issues with this is, well, now you've just created a minor league. There's no attachment to the university. The students feel no attachment to the athletes, and vice versa. I feel that defeats the purpose of college sports. The next model would be the open market model. Both these models, by the way, are for Salima Karoma and Sean Gregory in their article on Time Magazine's The Long and Winding Road to Paying College Players. Now, the open market is more that they are student athletes, but now they can negotiate their contracts. Say, for instance, a freshman has a really good year, he can negotiate to get paid more for his sophomore year. The issue with this is now you'll see larger schools poaching the best players from the smaller schools. Again, it's hard for students to feel attachment to athletes who could leave at any time to go somewhere else. Even though you're sharing a classroom with them, that doesn't mean they're going to be there next semester. And like I said, I think that takes away from the spirit of college athletics. Finally, we get to the Olympic model. And with the Olympic model, according to Joe Nasura of the New York Times, the student athletes can profit on the likeness in their images and on signing things such as autographs, and they can make money while in school, and they're able to capitalize on their fame while it's at its peak. This isn't a system that the Olympics use for their Olympic athletes, it's hence the name the Olympic model. I feel this would be the perfect solution. It would allow the athletes to make money while they're at the height of their fame, because not every guy becomes a superstar in the NFL or the NBA or whatever professional sports they join. So they're able to strike while the iron's hot and make as much money as they can in the moment that they can. Of course, we also have leaving it as it is, just keeping the scholarships and the stipends. And while I think in theory years ago this was a good idea, clearly now with the amount of money being made, this is not sustainable. And we just cannot do this. The athletes are moving away from it, and what's going to happen is a situation where a big game's going to come up, both teams are going to appear, and they're going to sit down. All the cameras will be running, and they'll refuse to play until something's worked out. And I think that is the worst case scenario. So, again, we discussed the money involved, which is in the billions. We discussed the athlete's opinion. Mr. Butt gave you very good opinions on it. And then the compensation models, which clearly, in my opinion, the Olympic model is the way to go. In closing, I would like to say the current system is not working, and change is coming. Now, the manner of that change is what's in question. We need a system that benefits everyone, not just the powerful, but also the men and women doing most of the work. I feel that the Olympic method will allow these athletes to capitalize on their fame when it's at their highest point and generate money that they can use for whatever they want, while also getting a quality education and providing us with hours upon hours of enjoyment. Thank you for your time.